Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Sorry I've been off for another week or so. Unfortunately my dad's not doing too well at the moment. In fact we were supposed to be going to see Amadeus at the National Theatre today and he's not well enough to go, so it's a bit of a shame. So I thought to cheer myself up, because I'm feeling a bit sad, I would film a few play reviews. At the moment I've been seeing more plays than I have been reading books, and a lot of you are really interested when I do some play reviews or recommend some plays for you to go and see, so I thought I would do that. These are all the plays that I've seen from the end of September up until now. So the first one that I want to talk about was something I saw at the Birmingham Rep, and that is The Importance of Being Earnest, which is originally by Oscar Wilde. This is my favourite play of all time. It's the play that I've seen the most. I think I've seen this 6 times on stage, including this. Oscar Wilde got the idea for this play from a late 1800s play called An Ideal Husband, which was very similar to this but completely serious. He invited quite a few of his famous friends along, so H.G. Wells and George Bernard Shaw were some of the people that first saw this play, and it opened on Valentine's Day, which I think is fantastic. The reception was very interesting because people thought it was absolutely excellent but didn't really understand the fact that it was satire. I absolutely love this play. I think it's so clever and so ahead of its time. Essentially this play is about 2 characters. We've got Algernon and John. Both characters are single at the opening of the play and they both want to rectify this. They're both upper class, well-to-do gentlemen, and both of the women that they're pursuing really want to marry a man with the name of Ernest. Yes, very fickle, but that is completely the point. As you can imagine, things go wrong, people end up with the wrong people, but ultimately it ends happy and well and they are both married. The majority of the costumes were more traditional to the time period, but they did have sort of a 1920s glamour about them, so there was a combination of the 2 time periods, and they also used a lot of 1920s music in the production. I really enjoyed this one. The next one that I went to see was a surprise from Dean, my lovely boyfriend, for my birthday. It was my 21st birthday on the 29th of September, and on my actual birthday he surprised me with tickets to go and see this for the next day, so we had to race up to London and it was just absolutely wonderful, and that was Matilda. I can't resist a good old cheesy musical. However, this was slightly different. This was not what I actually expected it to be. I hadn't seen this before. I was a little bit put off because I love the film Matilda and I absolutely adore the book, but I thought this might have been a bit childish or kiddie, I don't know, maybe more targeted towards children. However, the music and the lyrics are written by Tim Minchin, who is one of my favourite comedians of all time and musicians. He's an incredible person and it was absolutely fantastic. The children in this are the best children actors that I think I've ever seen. They could all dance, sing and act exquisitely well. The little girl that we had on the night that played Matilda was just wonderful. She was so good. If you like musicals but maybe you're not so into the more traditional musicals, this is really different. It has some very dirty jokes in for a children's musical. The staging is fantastic. The jokes, the dancing, everything is so wonderfully done. The characters are so over the top but yet not pantomime-y. It really is good. The next play that I went to see was actually another musical, and it was an amateur musical this time, and that was 9 to 5, which I saw at the Wolverhampton Grand. The reason I went to see this is because my best friend took me because her cousin was in it. He was playing one of the main parts and I really enjoyed him in it. As a musical on the whole, I don't think this is a particularly engaging or interesting musical. I think the amateur group that did it did an excellent job, but I don't know, something fell a little bit flat for me. Essentially it's about 3 workers in the 70s who have a very horrible misogynistic boss, and they decide to kidnap him and run the business themselves. It is a very forward-thinking musical. There's definitely elements of feminism in there. There's a few times in it where the characters say things like, "We haven't got time for feminism around here, it's not about that, it's about equality." And I was just like, feminism is equality, what's happening? I wouldn't see this again. I definitely wouldn't go and see, I wouldn't pay, you know, West End prices to go and see this, but I enjoyed it for what it was and I thought the amateur group that I went to see did an excellent job. The next 2 plays I went to see over 2 nights, and that was at my old drama school, Birmingham School of Acting, and I saw The Merchant of Venice and Two Gentlemen of Verona. I only have the programme for Two Gentlemen of Verona. They're both Shakespeare plays that I've never seen before and I enjoyed them both. I definitely enjoyed The Merchant of Venice more. The Merchant of Venice is about one man who needs to borrow some money, and he borrows it from a Jew, and the Jew says, "You can borrow it all you want, but if you don't repay it to me I will take a pound of your flesh." And He's very confident in the fact that he'll be able to repay it, but unfortunately circumstances happen and he can no longer repay it, and then the Jew wants the pound of flesh, and the story goes from there. It's a very interesting play, and set in the modern business district in London was a very interesting concept. I think that worked excellently. I definitely, like I said, enjoyed it more than Two Gentlemen of Verona. Two Gentlemen of Verona is in a trilogy of plays that Shakespeare wrote. The Taming of the Shrew and the Comedy of Errors are also included in that. Two Gentlemen of Verona really does feel like a lot of Shakespeare's other plays. I didn't really find anything new and interesting. The storyline is that of love and falling out and fickle love and men dressing up as women and women dressing up as men, that sort of thing. If you don't know, I have mentioned this in a previous video, but my dad has seen every single Shakespeare play and I'm trying to play catch up with him. Obviously he's got a fair few years on me. But that's 2 more plays to tick off. I'm not actually sure how many I've seen. I'm going to make a video soon on all the Shakespeare plays that I've seen and all the ones I have to see, and we can see how many I can achieve while still on BookTube. The next play that I went to see was also at Birmingham Rep, and that was 946, The Amazing Story of Adolphus Tips, which is adapted from the Michael Morpurgo book. Michael Morpurgo is a very famous children's author. He's excellent, probably most famous for writing War Horse, but Adolphus Tips was always one of my favourite as a child. This was put on by a company called Knee High, who do absolutely fantastic modern twists on plays. Most recently they did a play called Dead Dog in a Suitcase, which I didn't see, but it was an adaptation of The Importance of Being Earnest. My boyfriend saw it and thought it was absolutely fantastic, but unfortunately I didn't get the chance to see it. The Amazing Story of Adolphus Tips is set in the Second World War. It starts beforehand and finishes just after, and it's about one family. They live on Slapton Sands. Now, if you know anything about World War II history, you might have heard of Operation Tiger, which is when hundreds of thousands of American troops came over to do a practice on Slapton Sands in the water, and unfortunately the Nazis got hold of the fact they were doing a practice and came over and shot them and sunk all of their boats, and unfortunately hundreds of American soldiers died. To be exact, there was 946 that died, which is why this is called 946, The Amazing Story of Adolphus Tips. It had lots of 1940s swing music in it. It was very sad. It involved a lot of puppetry. If you're interested in that sort of thing, I really would Google some pictures of this performance and you can see how they incorporated all the puppets and things. It was absolutely excellent. I loved it so much and I really would recommend that one if you see it. I think it is still on tour at the moment, so if you're interested, do give it a quick Google. Now, it wouldn't be a play review from me unless I went to see something at the National Theatre, and the most recent thing that I went to see was The Red Barn, which was a new play by David Hare. This starred one of my favourite actors of all time, Mark Strong. He's been in lots of things, most famous for playing villains in things. 2 couples who leave a very fancy, well-to-do party and not all of them arrive home safe, and it involves this little red barn here. It was very interesting how this was done. It almost felt like a cinema piece. So what they did was the stage was set up and they had 4 black sliders, and it would slide in on a tiny piece of the action, so the whole stage would be black, but say if it wanted to focus on a specific character's actions or face or scene, then it would zoom in like that, almost like a lens focusing on a camera, and it would just show that tiny bit of the action, and then it would open out into a scene or it would close up completely and we'd get a black stage with a phone call. One of the couple's husbands does not arrive home safe. They're very worried about him and unfortunately they do find him dead in the snow, but everything is definitely not what it seems, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I think it is still on at the moment, but I'm pretty sure that it is completely sold out, probably because of Mark Strong. He's an incredible actor, but it was absolutely fantastic. One of the best things I've seen in a long time. And finally, the last thing that I went to see was also a present for my 21st birthday. My wonderful auntie took me to see Agatha Christie's The Mousetrap in London, which was absolutely fantastic. It is the longest running show ever in the world. It is, I think the performance I went to see was 26,655th, which is unbelievable. It's moved from one theatre to the other, just next door, but it's a tiny little theatre, St Martin's Theatre in London. It's right next to Matilda actually, on 7 Dials. It does say right at the end when they do their bows that I'm not allowed to tell you what happens in the play. It's supposed to be kept a secret. The Mousetrap is essentially about a man and a woman who have recently had a house given to them in the countryside, and they decide to open it as a hotel, as a bed and breakfast, and all of these people come to stay and they get snowed in, and then it turns out that there has been a murder in London, and a police officer arrives and he starts to interview them, and the couple realise that all of these people they don't actually know that much about, and the story unravels from there, and it is a fantastic whodunit, one of the biggest twists in history. It's fantastic, but like I said, I'm not allowed to tell you what happens, so you'll have to go and see it for yourself. So I think that is everything. Please let me know down below if you've seen any of these plays or interested in seeing them, or if you have any questions about any plays or any recommendations you'd like me to give. Let me know, because I will be more than happy to help. I hope you've all had a really lovely week, and I shall see you in my next video. Bye!